at some point, you need to start to look critically at the hiring process and or the person that is hiring them.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is the very rare Power Rankings Wednesday, presented, of course, by DraftKings. As I explained yesterday, just horrible Wi-Fi in my hotel in Kansas City, so it made more sense to use the Mike Silver interview, which, by the way, I thought was really interesting, especially what he said about Shanahan trying to trade RG3 after he was Rookie of the Year. That is wild. Anyway, we're going to get to the power rankings today, and there's a lot of news around the NFL. It was a very, very eventful Tuesday, so we will incorporate those into the equation as well. Most of you know Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years. Now I get a chance to broadcast a bunch of games, which I love. I got a college game Saturday night, Oregon State, Nevada. My first cable game this year, CBS Sports Network. A couple days away from giving out winners for those of you that spread the word via social media or sponsor confirmation email winners. Those of you that give us a YouTube comment, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Our patrons of the day, patreon.com/RT Media, Joe Malik and Christian Warikis. Welcome to the family, guys. Patreon.com/RT Media. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross, before we get into the power rankings, there was a big move in New York yesterday. The Jets, they fire head coach Robert Saleh.
Right. And, man, there's a lot I could say about this. I guess I'm going to say enough that we should probably make it the Labatt Take of the Week. Presented by Labatt Blue Light, the pristine Canadian Pilsner. Enjoy your beers together so you can live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer. Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. I don't know Woody Johnson. To my knowledge, I've never met Woody Johnson. He might be a great owner. I don't know. Great guy. All I know is when you look at the sheer volume of GMs, head coaches, and quarterbacks that have cycled through the Jets organization over the last 15 years, at some point, you need to start to look critically at the hiring process and or the person that is hiring them, because it's a lot of people. So something is going wrong either with the culture of the organization or with whoever is ultimately in charge of hiring the decision makers in New York. I think it was really surprising at 2-3 to move on from Robert Saleh. I think it's pretty crappy that Robert Saleh only gets 5 games as a head coach with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. And the last 2 games were not good. You know, they only scored whatever it was, 3 field goals against the Broncos. That was a bad loss. And then in the London game, they did not look good at all, in particular on offense, I would say. And Rodgers threw the 3 picks. There's just so much here, though, Jack. I mean, I feel like we could go on and on with it, but there are reports that Saleh was going to fire Nathaniel Hackett or was thinking about it. There's a report that Saleh had said in the morning in a staff meeting that Todd Downing was going to be the play caller, not Nathaniel Hackett. And then Saleh got fired. My favorite is all the reports. Saleh was just going to work that day. He was totally blindsided by it. Yeah, no kidding. It's called being fired. I mean, what do you think he was doing that day? You know, walking in thinking he was about to get fired? Like that's kind of how it works when you get fired, right? So anyway, Jeff Ulbrich, I know him, played against him, really like him. I think he has what it takes to be a good head coach in the NFL. Seems like an awesome guy. I don't know how he will change the offensive side of the ball, if at all. I mean, at this point, they might as well just let Rodgers call the plays, right? It feels like Rodgers is calling all the other shots. We'll see if it works. I probably would have waited a little bit longer if I was Woody Johnson. I think 5 games a little bit short, but remember this: owners can always do what they want, and a lot of times owners are impatient, impetuous, and they want results now, and they're going to try to take action to try to get those results.
I love tailgating. I love contests. And I love Smirnoff because they're giving fans in select areas of the country a chance to win the ultimate game day experience. From tickets to sideline passes and much more. Just head to WeDoGameDays.com until November 15th to enter for your chance to win. Smirnoff, We Do Game Days. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. No purchase necessary. 21 plus. Ends 11/15/24. See rules at website for participating area and other important details. Sponsored by Diageo Americas, Incorporated, New York, New York. By the way, as if I wasn't already a big enough fan of the Game Time app, just because they guarantee you the lowest price guarantee, or they'll credit you 110% of the difference, as well as what I think is the biggest key is being able to get the panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Now I really love Game Time. I got tickets there for 3 different things, actually. I got the Post Malone concert tickets in Hershey. I got the Penn State tickets. And then when I was in Vegas with my wife, that's how we got the David Spade Nikki Glazer ticket. So do what I did. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ROSS for $20 off your first purchase. Yes, I used my own code. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ROSS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
It's time for the all-important Power Rankings. The worst team in the history of the NFL is...
All right, Ross, we're going to start with another team in the news. 32nd, New England Patriots.
They're making the change, Jack. We kind of all saw it coming, thought it would happen. You could really tell by the tone of Gerard Mayo after that Dolphins game, right? It just seemed like up until that point it was Jacoby Brissett gives us the best chance to win. We're starting Jacoby Brissett because I said so. And then after the game, it was like, yeah, we'll take a look at it. We'll see what's going on. Here's what I know from my time in the NFL, Jack. It's not good to be bad, but it's really not good to be bad and have no hope and not feel like you're making any progress. Now, at least Patriots fans, Drake May will make some plays to give them some hope for the future. And Drake May, even if he has mistakes and plays poorly, at least you'll feel like you're going through the growing pains now and you're making some type of progress if you're a Patriots fan or Patriots organization for that matter.
31st, Cleveland Browns.
It's gotten really ugly in Cleveland. That last game against the Commanders, I was not expecting that. We'll see if they can turn it around. You know, the real issue for them, or one of the 2 issues for them, number one, we've seen what the team looked like last year when Joe Flacco was at quarterback. The guys on the team know what it was like last year when Joe Flacco was the quarterback. That puts the Browns in a precarious position. And I've seen some of the numbers on like what the dead cap hit would be to move on from Deshaun Watson. This is why you don't do that contract. Now, if he was a top 5 quarterback in the league, he would be worth every penny. And the Browns would be thrilled that they did this. But he's not, so they aren't. And I think, like everybody else, I wonder if Stefanski even has the ability to be able to move on from him?
30th, Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins got to win. No real clue what they're going to do in terms of with Tua Tagovailoa. That win was critical for them to have any hope in terms of Tua coming back or not and being able to maybe stay in this thing. It was not pretty, but they got it done, which they desperately needed to, just to, I don't know, on some level, give Tua more incentive maybe to come back this year. Although, candidly, from a personal perspective, I'm not really hoping or wanting to see that.
29th is the Tennessee Titans.
Titans had a bye, and they also have some unknowns right now in terms of who their quarterback will be. You know, it's one of those deals where they say it's Levis, as long as he's 100%. But you wonder if they're curious to try to maybe get another game in there with Rudolph, and if Rudolph plays well, getting all the reps as the starter, and they win the game, if maybe they leave him in there. You know, this happens a lot. Dr. Chow from @ProFootballDoc on social media and SportsInjuryCentral.com, he talks about this a lot, but teams hide behind health at times. They do. It's like the Colts. I'm sure they'd rather start Joe Flacco, but Richardson was their top 5 pick. Richardson's their guy, but they're going to say, as soon as he's 100%, you just wonder sometimes if these teams even really want these young quarterbacks that they drafted to actually be 100%.
28th is the Carolina Panthers.
They're going the wrong way, too. They did not score very much against a good Bears defense. Bears have been very solid in that side of the ball, and their defense is horrendous. I think there's a decent chance that the Panthers start to head back towards, being in the 30s down there with like the Browns and the Patriots pretty soon, just because their defense is that bad. Uncharacteristically, on the Even Money podcast, I laid 6 points with the Falcons in Carolina, which I rarely do, but their defense it's that bad.
27th is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So I think the concerning thing, if you're a Jags fan, is that you got absolutely shredded by Joe Flacco and the Colts offense, even though they didn't have Jonathan Taylor. So that's got to be concerning. The flip side, I guess, is, first of all, that's kind of what Joe Flacco does these days. Secondly, you're in a situation where Trevor Lawrence played his best game in a long time. The offensive line played their best game in a while. Tank Bigsby looks like a dude. Brian Thomas looks like a dude. You got some good young players to be excited about if you're a Jags fan.
26 is the Las Vegas Raiders.
So I think everybody's now kind of waiting on the next shoe to drop, so to speak, with Devontae Adams. You would expect, this is the last year of Joe Douglas's contract with the Jets. You'd expect he'd go all in. Trade future draft picks for Devontae Adams. What does he care? He won't even be there. They won't be his draft choices. But you'd say the same thing about Hassan Reddick, which makes you think perhaps that, maybe Joe Douglas's hands are tied with some of these moves. I will say, as it relates to the Raiders, they say that Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew are competing for the starting job in practice. I don't really know what that means during the season when nobody can hit them. Okay.
25th, Jets.
Jets, Jets. It's not over. I mean, if they win on Monday night, they're in first place. You forget about that. And they could very easily win on Monday night because the Bills haven't looked all that good the last couple games. So it's a little bit surprising to me at this point that the Jets made the move that they made. But like I already said about the owner, they're desperate to try to do something. So we'll see. We'll see if this pays off. We'll see if they get this part. I think after the standalone game in London, and now to have a standalone game with them talking about the Jets Monday night, I don't think he wanted Robert Saleh to be on the sideline.
24th is the Arizona Cardinals.
Boy, that was a huge win. That was an absolutely gigantic win on the road against the Niners. And you wonder if that spurs on the Cardinals to have more wins, a better season. But that was kind of what they envisioned. Those are the type of wins that Jonathan Gannon really needed to have. And by the way, especially after they got destroyed at home by the Commanders. That was an ugly loss. To bounce back and have that kind of good win was highly encouraging, I would say, for the Cardinals.
23rd is the New York Giants.
The G-Men. Listen, they are much, much better than anybody anticipated, at this point. Daniel Jones is playing pretty well. They won a game on the road without Malik Neighbors. I am super impressed with them defensively. They lead the NFL in sacks. So very, very interesting that the Giants are better than we thought they were.
22nd is the LA Rams.
You know, they've had back-to-back really tough losses. They're not a bad team, but these NFL games, they're close and they're just missing a little bit. And maybe that's, Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua, but whatever they're doing, they weren't quite able to get over the hump against the Bears or in the last game against the Packers. And now season's kind of getting away from them a little bit at 1-4. They're down there with the Panthers in the basement of the NFC. They need a win very, very badly. We'll see whether or not they can get it when they come back from their bye.
Another team you mentioned earlier, the Indianapolis Colts at 21st.
Right, and they'd won a couple games. I think they were feeling pretty good about themselves. They never win in Jacksonville for whatever reason, and they've got a really interesting situation. They kind of remind me a little bit now, Jack, of the Browns last year, where the other players on the team and the fans, they've seen what the offense looks like with Flacco. And so you put somebody else in there, and Anthony Richardson, if they're not really moving the ball or not really scoring, could put Shane Steichen, the head coach, in a really tough position, right? Are you trying to develop Anthony Richardson for the future, or are you trying to win games?
20th is the New Orleans Saints.
Well, we mentioned in terms of, news today, it sounds like Derek Carr is going to miss at least the next couple games with the oblique injury that he suffered on that last play for him against the Chiefs. And so, initially I was thinking Jake Haener, but now it sounds like there's multiple reports. It might be our guy Spencer Rattler, who both Greg Cosell and Emery Hunt on the College Draft podcast really liked. I'm kind of excited to see Spencer Rattler if he gets the chance.
19th is the Chicago Bears.
The Bears. Listen, their defense is a known commodity. It feels like Caleb Williams is figuring it out a little bit and playing better on the offensive side of the ball. I would say that is encouraging. I would be encouraged right now if I'm a Bears fan, because the defense will always be there for you. And now you've got the offense starting to get into a little bit of a rhythm here.
Any encouragement with 18, the LA Chargers.
Well, they just needed to get healthy, right? They had lost both tackles. It was ugly in their last game without those guys. Herbert was not 100%. He still might not be 100%, but coming off the bye, he should be feeling much, much better.
17th.
Go, Chargers, go. Sorry.
17th is the Seahawks.
Yeah, they're kind of going the wrong way, right? I mean, to lose at home like that, it's one thing to lose on the road against the Lions. To lose at home like that to the Giants, that was an ugly loss. I mean, they didn't really look good on either side of the ball. That was a pretty significant step back, I would say, for Mike McDonald.
Halfway mark is the Steelers at 16.
Speaking of going the wrong way, right? Steelers have now lost back-to-back games. They lost to the Colts, who are not a great team, and they lose at home to the Cowboys, also not a great team, even though the Cowboys were so banged up and then got even more banged up with Marshawn Nealon during that game.
Team moving the right way. The Denver Broncos at 15.
Yeah, they are. So much so that they're my biggest upgrade this week with the Denver Broncos moving up, 8 spots, Jack, I think?
8 or 9, yep, of one of those
Yeah,
two.
that's impressive. Do what the Broncos are doing. Move up, upgrade your bathroom or entry door with West Shore Home. Get free installation for 72 months, which is insane, with 0% interest, plus an extra $1,500 off when you visit westshorehome.com/Ross. Getting anything for 72 months with 0% interest is very nice, especially in this time where we're at now. westshorehome.com/Ross. As for the Broncos, their defense has been awesome all season. I would expect them to continue to be awesome with Vance Joseph. And now their offense coming around a little bit, their quarterback. The Broncos and Bears are in a very similar place right now where you can count on both their defenses every week and their young rookie quarterbacks starting to get better. The offense is starting to look like they belong a little bit.
14th, Cincinnati Bengals.
I know they only have one win. You also know how I do this. I look at all the teams, and I think if the Bengals played the Steelers or Broncos in a best of 5 in my backyard, I think the Bengals would win 3 of those. I think that they're pretty good still. They're just finding ways to lose.
13th is the Falcons.
They're coming off some really impressive wins this year, right? I mean, think about the games they've won. Eagles late, Bucks late, Saints late. Hopefully for their sake, they don't have to win late against Carolina.
12th is the Dallas Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys? Hard to overstate just how significant that win was for them to be able to get that dub, on the road in Pittsburgh without Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence. It's a bad look, by the way, for the Steelers that they couldn't move the ball offensively and got dominated like that.
Staying in the NFC East with the Eagles at 11.
Eagles, Eagles. All right, so the Eagles are 11. They didn't move up or down during the bye. However, they should be getting a lot healthier. You would expect that Lane Johnson, Devontae Smith, and maybe A.J. Brown will be back for this game against Cleveland. It's a good opponent for them to be playing. It's kind of a get-right game, or should be, for the Eagles to kind of, get above 500 and start to feel better about where they're at.
10th is the Niners.
It's weird to see the Niners at 2-3. It's weird to see the Niners doinking off games like this against the Rams. The only win for the Rams against the Cardinals. I still think the Niners are a pretty darn good team, and I might still have them too low. Even though they're 2-3 in a best of 5, I might still take them over some of these teams ahead of them.
9th is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I only dropped them 1 spot after that loss to the Falcons because pretty clearly they could have, would have, should have still won that game. And Baker Mayfield really feels like he is in a groove on the offensive side of the ball.
8th is the Packers.
Dun 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 dun. Go Pack, go! Dun 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 dun. Go Pack, go! So we'll see what happens getting Romeo Doubs back. It wasn't like an awesome performance by them against the Rams, but at least they got back on track on the road.
7th, Houston Texans.
Something's not quite right with the Texans. I know they got that win against the Bills. I still moved them down, really, because there's a couple teams I felt like I had to move up.
6th is the Bills.
What? The Bills just lost to the Texans. How can you do that? Well, it was 2020, and the Bills had some questionable clock management decisions late in that game. At any rate, I think neutral site, that game was in Houston, neutral site, I'd still take the Bills, but I think it's close. Not overly impressed with either one of those teams right now.
Who'da thunk it? Commanders at 5.
They've earned it, man. I mean, they've earned it. 4-1. Have they won 4 straight? I think they have. I think they lost the first game to the Bucks, and now they've won 4 straight. That is super impressive for the Commanders. And I say this all the time. I'll say it again. They got a quarterback. they believe. That is absolutely invaluable to have a guy at that position that you really believe is the guy.
Fourth, Detroit Lions.
Well, they looked incredible offensively in their last game against the Seahawks. Maybe not so much defensively, but I'm moving them up because they finally kind of felt like they got their mojo back on the offensive side of the ball. They had been more or less stuck in low gear so far this season.
Third is the Baltimore Ravens.
I know they're only 3-2, and I know their defense really kind of got torched by the Bengals passing game, but the Ravens running game and Lamar Jackson, they are looking legit right now. I think the Ravens are back to being one of the best teams in football.
Second is the Minnesota Vikings.
The Minnesota Vikings. It was not all that impressive of a win against the Jets. You know, they weren't exactly firing on all cylinders on the offensive side of the ball with Darnold, but guess what? It doesn't matter. They won the game. And I think sometimes I'm impressed by teams that win the game, even though they don't really play all that great, especially on offense. I think that's highly encouraging. And it's because their defense has been pretty consistent all year, especially forcing quarterbacks into bad turnovers.
And the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1.
You know, I think there were other weeks where you could debate this. You could debate whether or not the Chiefs deserve to be number 1. I don't think you can really debate that right now. They looked really good on Monday night, winning by 2 scores against the Saints. They're still undefeated. Basically, the more things change, the more they stay the same. At this point, I'll kind of believe they're not the best team in football when someone actually beats them. Other than that, Fantasy Feast today. Check out Even Money, College Draft. And other than that, I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out to myfrontpagestory.com. You guys know all too well how I feel about making sure other people in your life know how much you care about them. Myfrontpagestory.com. Plus, I love sending you guys signed autographs. Backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com.